because I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their gilt rings. Right, the bouncers gilt rings.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
Razaban IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Delighted to have him on this sunny day. The knowledge, Spencer Fearon. Spence, how are we?
I'm good, bro. I'm good.
I can see a clip being played in the background of yourself, Tunde and Chris Eubank Senior. Was that fun?
It was a really good interview. So I would say to you guys to go to the Stamina for Sale YouTube channel, The Fight Is Right. And it is Chris Eubank Senior's tribute to Tina Turner, who lost last week. A really good interview. And it's good to see Chris Eubank Senior in very, very good spirits. So that was nice to see. And he dropped some really, really good gems. So yeah, Raz, you should look out for that one.
Definitely. Spence, obviously, let's just go back to the weekend. I'll start in Bournemouth because I was covering the show there. Lawrence Okolie got beaten, takes his first professional loss, lost his WBO cruiserweight title to Chris Smith. A lot of people I spoke to, Spence, they say rather than Chris winning it, Lawrence lost the fight himself.
No. By anybody turning around and saying that, we are disrespecting and disregarding Chris Smith. Chris Smith fought a hell of a fight. They employed superb tactics, lulling Lawrence in so they could throw the left hook. The left hook, I think, was going to be a pivotal shot for Chris Smith to throw. I was saying that, and I think I said that to you when we were speaking about the fight. But Tunde, straight away, when we did the watch along, which we do for every big fight, that got really good numbers as well on our channel. Was saying like I could see the left hook being administered, and it was administered. And the saddest thing here with Lawrence Okolie is better than what he is demonstrating, because if he wasn't good, he couldn't become a British, Commonwealth, and European champion and go on to become a WBO world champion. You can't do those things. If you're not good, you can't. It's not like, oh, well, you just got a Rocky Balboa moment and you ended up fighting Apollo Creed for a world title and you happen to put in a good performance. No, he's been consistently good in winning, but not consistently good at entertaining. There's a difference.
There was a lot of holding. It seemed like Lawrence went back to kind of his old habits. He had improved. We saw that over the last couple of fights with Shane McGuigan, where there was less holding and more, using his jab and using his reach advantage. Why do you think he kind of went back to those bad habits? Because that's probably the worst we've seen of him when it comes to constantly hugging the opponent.
You know what? I said this before. I think that Lawrence has a very, very philosophical approach to life now. So maybe the hunger's not there like that. Maybe it's not there. Maybe it's not like, I've got to bite down on my gum shield, because when he had to bite down, he did bite down. But unfortunately, for all of Lawrence Okolie's brilliance in being supremely awkward, also there's certain fundamentals that are missing. I remember seeing Lawrence Okolie as an amateur, and I think he boxed a lot sharper than he does as a professional. He's more laid back now. There's no snap on these shots. And that's not me being critical of Lawrence, because Lawrence is my guy. I've got a lot of respect for him, especially for his accomplishments. But this is the entertainment business. You are an entertainer. Let me tell you this. I'm going to keep this thing 100. Ben Shalom, boxer, Sky TV, are not upset that Lawrence Okolie lost. They're happy that he lost, not because nothing against him as an individual, as a person, but his style isn't bums on seat style. It's not. You know what I mean? You're with Sugar Hill, and the Kronk gym is noted for guys fighting, right? That's what the Kronk is noted for. You look at all the Kronk fighters, even though they all could box, right? But bottom line, they were going to hit you with the backhand, and it's going to be hard. Like from guys like Helmer Kenty, if you look at those guys who, Tommy Hearns, who was the second world champion out of the Kronk, if you look at those guys, how they box, Jimmy Paul, everything was timing with a jab. Sometimes the jab would be more of a hurtful shot. They'd throw the jab hard. It had snap on it to line you up to throw the right hand. Unfortunately, Lawrence Okolie hasn't, the 6 weeks that he's been with Sugar Hill, hasn't to know to throw the right hand correctly, which is sad. It's sad.
Spence, how did you have the scorecard after the fight?
I didn't. I had Lawrence losing. I didn't even bother. He got deducted about 60 trillion points. You know what I mean? He got floored twice. So there's no way that how one judge got it 112. I'm saying for real? Like, no, come on, let's just call it as it is. Chris Smith admits it's a great game plan. I was saying to you, Lawrence, do not let this go points. And I was saying this because if you go points, you're going to get jobbed. But no way, you got beaten comprehensively in that fight. Yeah, I mean, a fair play to him. He's taking it very philosophical as well. We'll see where he's going to go from there.
Can he go away, study the fight, learn on his mistakes, come back and avenge that loss?
I'm not sure, because I think it's more to do with his fundamentals, and his fundamentals mentally, as well as his physical attributes. If we could see something change for him, but I'm not taking nothing away from Craig Smith. He fought an excellent fight. Nobody expected him to win. Let's just be real. We were thinking like, all right, then we'll have it on home ground because maybe he'll give us a spirited effort.
Spence, just picking this up with some internet connection there. I mean, if there is a rematch clause, Lawrence said to me when I interviewed him after the fight that he will activate the rematch clause. But let's say if he didn't, who would you like to see Chris Smith fight?
Obviously, you say Richard Rappaport, right? But let's be realistic. Richard Rappaport, that fight ain't said nothing, right? They fought before. It was a really good fight. Richard Rappaport came out victorious. Sky need to have pay-per-view fights out, and right now they haven't gotten unfortunately the Eubank Smith fights fallen through. I know this might sound because of weights, but I'd like to see Chris Smith fight Anthony Yarde. Seriously, I know Anthony Yarde's most probably a heavyweight coming down to light heavyweight. He could, I think that would be, because no one's exciting. This is no disrespect to the other guys, right? No one's not exciting enough to bring in that kind of excitement. That would be an exciting fight, because Anthony Yarde wouldn't be an overwhelming favorite in that. It most probably be the underdog because he's moving up in weight. I think that fight would be a great fight, simply because their styles would complement each other.
I mean, I know you spend a lot of time with Tunde, but have you spoken to Tunde about potential Anthony moving up to cruiserweight?
No, I haven't. I'm just putting it out there now. Yeah, I mean, Tunde's gonna hear about this when he sees this, no doubt. His phone will start blowing up. Ross Spencer's trying to say that Yarde should fight Bill Smith. Yes, that's right. I think Anthony Yarde should move up to cruiserweight for this fight for the WBO world title, because I remember Tunde and those guys always saying it was about the belts. They don't care about who's got them. When they say about the belts, they weren't telling me what weight. But I think Ben Shalom and Boxer and his team, guys like Johnny Wish, they would need somebody like Anthony Yarde so they can make a pay-per-view fight, right? People pay for that. A pay-per-view fight against somebody who's got that kind of sexiness about them. They've got that. So I think that's the fight that should be made. See, there you see, Ben Shalom, I'm making your job easy for you, bro. Send my check in the post.
Just want to move over to Manchester. Lee Wood becoming a two-time world champion as well. Obviously, we obviously know what happened during the week with Mauricio Lara not being able to make the weight, and the board not allowing him to come down to the correct weight. But yeah, I mean, positive for another British world champion.
Listen, fantastic that we got another British world champion. And not only that, this is what I like about the game, especially with Lee Wood, right? You came up bad in a fight, and you went back into the lion's den. Now, you weren't just fighting your opponent in Lara. You were also fighting the demons of what happened to you when you got knocked out, right? And you came back, you brushed yourself off, and you became victorious. So full praise and credit should be given to his whole team. You know, Barry Smith, Ben Davison, and Lee for administering such a brilliant game plan, and they boxed really well, and credit to them.
Do you see him fighting Lopez? Lopez obviously beat Conlan. He's beaten
Isaac Lowe.
Warrington, Isaac Lowe. There's a lot of talk about this Warrington fight, but I know it sells well, but let's be honest, Warrington hasn't really performed over the last couple of years as well.
He hasn't, you know what I mean? And I think, but I don't think he's obligated to fight Josh Warrington. So fight Josh Warrington. But really and truly, I think I wouldn't be in no rush to fight that brother, you know. Let's be real. Right? But the educated approach of Lee Wood, maybe he can handle him because he's a very educated boxer, you know, and he sticks to game plans.
A quick word on Mick Conlan, obviously a devastating knockout in Belfast, an uppercut caught by obviously Lopez, who's come over here and beaten a number of Brits now, but a really bad knock-up and setback for Mick Conlan.
It is, but you know what? I mean, that's Mick Conlan's second stoppage defeat loss. Conlan is very, very good. And it depends on his mindset, because it is about the mindset. And I think Conlan can take homage from Lee Wood, because Lee Wood got knocked out, but Lee Wood found something inside of him to muster up to come back and regain his world title. Now, Conlan hasn't had a world title, but just to get back into the championship realms, he's got a good management team. His brother manages him as well. He's got a massive following in Ireland. I think if he's steered correctly and been put in the right fights, hopefully it hasn't had any mental reverberations on him. If he's got some mental reverberations on him, then it's going to be difficult for him to come back. But I like Conlan. I've always liked him. He's a good fighter. Very, very good boxer. But, you know, that was a hard, horrible knockout. We see how he can come back from. But I pray that he does come back from this, because he's good people's.
Spence, is the heavyweight division letting boxing down? Deontay Wilder last fought, I think it was October last year. Dylan White fought around the similar time. Fury fought in December. Joshua fought earlier this year. Usyk hasn't fought since Joshua last year. Everyone's holding out for this potential Saudi night that we don't know whether it's happening or not. I spoke to Johnny Nelson last week, and Johnny said to me that Anthony Joshua is now fighting for the wrong reasons. If he skips a fight in the summer and goes to Deontay Wilder, is it holding up boxing, the heavyweight division?
How can Johnny Nelson say that Anthony Joshua is fighting for the wrong reasons? What are the right reasons to be fighting?
Activity.
So you should be fighting for activity.
Well, as a fighter, as Anthony Joshua says, he stated after Jermaine Franklin fight that he's going to fight again in the summer. He then came out and said he's not going to fight in the summer. I think Eddie's come out and said we'd like Joshua to have a fight in August, but he's in.
No, I just want to know, how can anybody say that Anthony Joshua's fighting for the wrong reasons? Johnny's my guy. Me and Johnny speak every day. Me and Johnny speak. I didn't hear that comment. How can Johnny Nelson please explain to me, how is Anthony Joshua fighting for the wrong reasons? If you're fighting, you're training, you're fighting for the right reasons. There is no wrong or right reason to be fighting, right? Bottom line is you're a prize fighter. So if you're a prize fighter, it's done for the economical standpoint which it has on your life, because you're a prize fighter. What's the prize? The prize is the glory. What's the glory? The glory is the financial is the financial and social rewards that comes from the sport. So we can't turn around and say, Johnny's saying he's fighting for the wrong reasons. He actually wants to fight Deontay Wilder. There is no bigger reason to get out of your bed to say you're going to be up against one of the hardest heavyweight punchers in history. There's no wrong reason for you to be. But if we're saying that Andy Joshua just turned up to say, I'm going to collect a check, or I got to fulfill my obligations to the zone or to Matchroom, then we can say, yeah, you're fighting for the wrong reasons. Andy Joshua is fighting not because he doesn't know there's nothing else for him to do. He's made how much? Millions and millions of pounds. Obviously, he wants to fight because he believes that he wants to prove something. There's nothing wrong with trying to prove something. And Johnny Nelson, of all people, should know better than that. Because Johnny Nelson, until the beginning of his career, he was dismal. Matter of fact, if you go to March of 1990, Johnny Nelson fights Carlos de Leon for the WBC World Cruiserweight title, which was Barry Hearn's first world title promotion, in the worst, diabolical, boring match ever. If you ever had any trouble in trying to go to sleep, all you got to do is watch that fight. Johnny Nelson should be a multi-millionaire because Johnny Nelson actually found a cure for insomnia. Just watch that fight. That's not me disrespecting Johnny Nelson because he accomplished far way more than me. Johnny's my guy, right? Johnny, seriously, Johnny's my guy. Very, very supportive human being. But I just gotta be real. You can't turn around and say Anthony Joshua's fighting for the wrong reasons. Because he's not. Because he don't have to fight no more. You feel me? I just can say, hey, I've had a fantastic run and live off of the interest. Right? Anthony Joshua's not fighting for the wrong reasons. Because he would have picked himself up and gone to the States and gone around Derek James, right? Kind of off of myself and Tundi's recommendation. I want my 5%, right? Right, but no, and you went there, big up KD, 258 management, right? He's not fighting for the wrong reasons, right? He's fighting because he wants to fight and he wants to prove himself to himself. That's the right reasons. That's not the wrong reasons.
Spence, going back to my question about all of these heavyweights almost being looking to be inactive most of this year.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Why is there nothing wrong with that?
Because they're saving themselves up for this grand finale that they're gonna have. Right? And when we say, but it should be, boxing isn't as easy as it was like in the 70s and all the rest of it, right? Because the professional fighter was not under the same social pressure right now. Because we are living in a bullshit society where it's all about likes and views and everything else like that. That's what it's all about. And because of that, it's become very, very dangerous, right? Because we're not respecting the artistry. So respect the artistry, then everything else falls into place because you're respecting the core fundamentals. So, you know, we shall see. We shall see.
Okay. Spence, anything else like to add before we end?
Yeah, I'm so happy that Terence Crawford and Errol Spence is finally being announced. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be, as far as I'm concerned, the most anticipated welterweight unification fight since Sugar Ray Leonard versus Thomas the Hitman Hearns, which was September of 1981, right? That's what I truly do believe. I think it's an excellent fight. And it's at the right time. Like, Pacquiao and Mayweather, they were both way past their best, right? Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad, they were both primed fighters, but the fight didn't live up to the expectation. This fight will live up to its expectation and more. I have no doubt. I know the two combatants very well, right? I know Terence Crawford better than I know Errol Spence. It's kind of weird because I should meant to know Errol Spence better than I know Terence Crawford because Errol Spence's father is actually Jamaican, right? But I would say that this is going to be what boxing needs. And these men, if you look at it, having Loma versus Devin Haney, having Garcia versus Tank, and having this fight here, it's been a brilliant 2023 already. And these men are putting guys to shame, right? Tyson Fury, Usyk, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder should be looking at what these men are doing, right? And taking some form of inspiration to say that, listen, we're going to go and do this. We're doing it for ourselves, obviously, but we are also doing it for boxing and for boxing history.
Spencer Fearon, Fire for TV. Thank you very much.
Take care, mate.
Because I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,